Hey guys, it doesn't even feel like it, but we finally got the newest banner in Honkai Star Rail version 4.0. And yep, it's none other than Sparxie, the cute but also hilarious character. Even though visually she looks very similar to Sparkle, in terms of aura, role, and kit, they are completely different. But what makes them somewhat similar is that both of them act as a sort of barrier within the team, helping the team's mechanics run more smoothly. Overall, Sparxie is a fire character on the Path of Elation, and she becomes the second playable Elation character after Yaoguang. Even though there were rumors that Sparxie would become a support character whose job is to generate punchlines for Silverwolf in version 4.2, her current role right now is actually as a main DPS with a skill point usage mechanic that's quite similar to Danhang Il and Archer. So without wasting any more time, together with me, Hoyo Station, let's jump straight into the ultimate guide for Sparxie in version 4.0. Let's do this. Do you have a character or weapon in the game that you really want but you don't have enough stellar jades? Here's a smarter way to recharge your favorite games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Look no further than Lootbar. Lootbar is the most reliable top-up platform. It saves up to 23% for all orders compared with the official channel, and it provides an 80% off for your first purchase. It's 100% safe as you will only be using your UID. We will buy pack for 3,000 stellar jades for $42, which otherwise would have costed $50, totally saving $7.5. We received the crystals we purchased in the less than 3 minutes. All recharges will be done through the official channel with miHoYo, which allows you to enjoy all top-up offers. Ready to level up your gaming experience? Check the link in the description to get the amazing discount. As usual, the first thing we are going to talk about is her skill. Called Boom, Sparxie is poppin', along with its enhanced version called Engagement Farming. The effect of this skill is actually quite similar to Archer's skill, called Kalet Walk 2, Fake Spiral Sword. Both of them allow you to repeatedly use the skill without ending the character's turn. The difference is that every time Sparxie uses a skill point to activate engagement farming, not only does the damage increase, but she can also receive rewards. These rewards are based on a random percentage, so the damage you deal will vary depending on your luck. But essentially, the more skill points you spend, the higher the potential damage you can produce. So obviously, one way to deal with this is by bringing characters that can restore a lot of skill points, like Sparkle, who actually received buffs in version 4.0. If we do a quick calculation here, if we manage to reach the maximum 20 engagement farming activations in a single opportunity, we can reach a total 400% damage multiplier against one target and 200% against 2 surrounding enemies. And this number doesn't even include the original damage multiplier from her enhanced basic attack, which is 100%. Alright, now let's move on to her enhanced basic attack, which acts as the follow-up attack after using her previous skill, so you can understand the full flow more clearly. After using the skill Sparxie is poppin', we can then use the enhanced basic attack called Plume, Winner Takes All. And this attack actually plays a very crucial role within Sparxie's kit. What's interesting is that if we combine this with the maximum damage multiplier obtained from engagement farming earlier, we can reach a total fire damage of 500% of Sparxie's attack to one enemy and 250% fire damage of Sparxie's attack to 2 surrounding enemies. So overall, this becomes quite solid damage for dealing with enemies. Now let's move on to her ultimate, Paris Wilding and Cameras Rolling, which has 160 energy cost. This ultimate has a pretty unique damage calculation. Unlike most ultimates, this one combines 3 different stats into its damage calculation: Raw Score, Elation, and Sparxie's attack. But we don't really need to worry about these damage sources, because Sparxie can convert attack points into Elation through one of her traces. So by simply increasing her attack, this ultimate will automatically benefit from both attack scaling and elation scaling. Also, since this ultimate's damage is calculated based on the elation stat, any kit that increases elation, like Yaoguang skill, will also affect the damage output of this ultimate. So clearly, the combination of Yaoguang and Sparxie is extremely strong right now, guys. Next, let's talk about her talent called Slate of Sparks Hand. This talent activates when we have Certified Banger, which we obtain when Aha takes a turn. The cool part about this talent is that it significantly increases the damage from both her enhanced basic attack and her ultimate. Not only that, but every time we trigger engagement farming, we also deal additional random damage to enemies, which helps maximize her total damage output. And you don't need to worry about maintaining Certified Banger, because Aha has its own turn and cannot be interrupted by crowd control effects or other disruptions. On top of that, if you have Yaoguang on the team, this talent effect can remain active consistently and push Sparxie's damage even higher. Next, let's briefly talk about her technique, called content monetization. In my opinion, this technique is actually very useful during exploration. When the technique is active, enemies cannot target us, which allows us to explore freely without getting interrupted. Then once you enter battle, all enemies will receive fire damage and we will also gain 2 additional skill points for free. This is obviously very helpful for Sparxie, especially to activate engagement farming right at the start of the fight. Now let's move on to a unique mechanic that only characters on the Path of Elation have, the Elation skill. This skill is called Signal Overflow, the Great Anchor. The Elation skill deals extremely massive damage, and more importantly, it gives us a special stack called Thrill. Thrill basically acts as a special skill point resource that helps us activate engagement farming more frequently. As long as we have Thrill stacks, when we activate engagement farming, the Thrill stacks will be consumed first before using regular skill points, which helps save SP. And finally, now we move on to another really interesting part of Sparxie's kit, which is her traces. The first trace is Sweet Punchline Signing, which increases elation based on Sparxie's attack points. If we calculate it, to reach an 80% elation increase, we need around 3600 attack to achieve the full 80% elation bonus. In my opinion, this number is still very achievable by using relics that focus on increasing attack, such as planar ornaments with attack percentage as the main stat. Meanwhile, the second trace, Dazzling Persona Kaleidoscope, has an effect that heavily depends on Sparxie's future team composition. The more characters in the team that belong to the Elation path, the stronger the effect of this trace will become. Unfortunately, in version 4.0, we can only maximize the effect with 2 Elation characters in the team, because currently only Yaoguang and Sparxie are playable Elation characters. And finally, the third trace, Frenzy, Blood of Truth and Lies, in my opinion, is a very strong buff that helps maximize Sparxie's damage. If we have 10 punchlines, we can immediately gain 80% critical damage. And for an Elation character, this requirement is actually quite easy to achieve. If we calculate everything just from her base kit alone, Sparxie already starts with 143.3% critical damage coming from base critical damage, minor traces, and the full effect of her third trace. So in reality, she already has a very high critical damage from the start. Now let's move on to the final part of Sparxie's kit, which is her Eidolons. For Eidolon 1 called Going Viral, who is she? The all-type resistant penetration effect from this Eidolon increases the damage output of the entire team. Keep in mind that we only need 10 punchlines to maximize this effect. We also gain an additional 5 punchlines, which helps keep this effect active consistently. The second Eidolon, Audience Knows, has a very interesting effect. We gain an extra turn, which further increases Sparxie's damage output. In addition, Sparxie also gains 40% critical damage if she consumes 4 thrill stacks when activating engagement farming. Personally, I think this is a very attractive option to consider if you want to invest more into the character. For EIDOLON 4, called Locked In Face Card, even though the effect may look simple at first, its impact on overall elation damage is actually very significant. The 30% elation increase is extremely useful for both the elation skill and her certified banger effect. This effect can also maintain 100% uptime, because EIDOLON 1 will provide 5 punchlines every time AHA instant ends. Finally, the last EIDOLON, Build Different, Going Extinct, is honestly overpowered. The additional 40 bounce damage increases the total bounce count to 60 hits. This clearly results in more than double the damage through her elation skill. The damage becomes absolutely monstrous. But of course, obtaining it is not easy, especially for free-to-play players or low spenders. Finally, without making it too long, let's talk about Sparxie's build. For her best line cone, the top choice is Dazzled by a Flowery World, which is none other than her signature line cone. This line cone makes it easier for Sparxie to reach very high critical damage. In addition, her elation damage can ignore up to 20% of the enemy's defense, which naturally increases her overall damage output. On top of that, it doesn't only increase her personal damage, this line cone also provides a 20% elation increase buff for the entire team. So the more elation characters you have in the team, the more optimal the effect of this line cone becomes. So what if you don't pull the signature line cone? Don't worry, if you don't get the signature, you can still use the MOC shop line cone called hsrbuild Adventures. This line cone provides 12% elation increase and a 6% increased elation damage taken when the user activates an elation skill. Based on the available data, the damage difference between the signature line cone and this free option is around 23% lower compared to the signature. So well, since this is a free line cone, you can't really complain. For the relic set, you can use the 4-piece Ever Glorious Magical Girl set. This set provides additional critical damage and allows your elation damage to ignore up to 20% enemy defense when you have at least 50 punchline points. From the effect alone, it's clear that this set is specifically designed for elation DPS characters. For the Plunder ornament, you can use Tengoku at live stream. This ornament actually has a very strong effect. It grants 48% additional critical damage when you use 3 or more skill points in a single turn. Since Sparxie constantly spends skill points during her turn, this effect will be very easy to trigger. And for the recommended stats, you can see them on your screen. Now let's move on to the teammates section. Actually, if you've already watched my previous video where I talked about the teammate tier list for Sparxie, it should already be clear that Yaoguang, Sparkle, and Danhang PT are among the best teammates for this character. First, Yaoguang and Sparxie share the same path, which is Elation. On top of that, through Yaoguang's skill called Light Unveils All, she can help Sparxie generate punchlines and also increase the entire team's elation by 20%. From the kit alone, it's already obvious that they have amazing synergy. But actually, it doesn't stop there. Yaoguang also has an ultimate that immediately gives AHA a turn, which means every elation character in the team can instantly use their elation skill. And of course, this will cause the team's damage output to skyrocket. Right now, the combination of Yaoguang and Sparxie is basically undeniable. Next, we have Sparkle. The main reason why I play Sparkle at the highest tier is because Sparxie needs a berry to refill skill points, and that's exactly Sparkle's specialty. Even though Sparxie can generate a lot of punchlines, she is extremely SP hungry. For example, Sparxie's enhanced skill engagement farming can be used repeatedly to generate more punchlines. But of course, the more punchlines we generate, the higher the elation damage she can produce. So having a strong SP battery is absolutely essential. Finally, the last character that I placed in the S tier is Danhang PT. So why is Danhang PT placed in S tier together with Yaoguang and Sparkle? Overall, Danang PT provides incredible value for hypercarry type characters, because the buffs he provides are focused on a single character, which is perfect for a hypercarry setup. The most notable part of his kit is his skill, which grants shields to all allies and applies a buff called Poundmate to a selected character. Characters with Poundmate receive a massive attack increase, and they will also continuously receive shields while having their debuffs removed regularly. This means Danang indirectly makes Sparxie much safer against enemies, while also providing what I personally think is a very broken buff. Alright, now let's answer the mandatory question for every ultimate guide video. Which one is more worth it, EIDOLON 1 or the signature icon? Honestly, both options have good value because both of them provide buffs that can improve Sparxie's performance and also benefit the entire team. However, if we use damage output as the main benchmark, then the signature icon is clearly superior. Based on the data that I took from Pride.GG, the signature icon provides a much higher damage increase, which is around 23% higher compared to using the free icon. Meanwhile, EIDOLON 1 only provides about a 16% increase, which means there's a roughly a 7% gap compared to the signature icon. So in short, if you have extra Stellar Jade, it's better to prioritize the signature icon first before going for E1. Alright guys, that's all for now. What do you think about Sparxie? Please leave any comments down below and don't forget to check out my other videos because they are no less cool. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video.